Echoes in my cabin. The old family cabin sat in the depths of the forest, shrouded in mist and ancient secrets. I had come alone, seeking solace from the chaos of the city. My grandfather's tales of the cabin had always been tinged with nostalgia, but there was something in his eyes, a glint of fear or a shadow of something unspoken that I could never quite place. I was determined to find out what he had left unsaid. As I approached the cabin, the air grew colder, and the sounds of the forest seemed to fade into an eerie silence. The wooden structure loomed ahead, dark and foreboding. Its windows were like empty eyes, watching my every move. I pushed open the heavy door, its hinges groaning in protest, and stepped inside. Dust motes danced in the beam of my flashlight, the scent of decay and neglect filling my nostrils. The interior was just as I remembered from childhood visits. Rustic furniture, a stone fireplace, and an unsettling feeling that something was watching me. I set my bag down and decided to explore. The attic had always been off-limits, but now, as an adult, I felt compelled to see what had been hidden away all these years. The stairs creaked beneath my weight, each step sounding like a gunshot in the oppressive silence. At the top, I hesitated. The attic door was slightly ajar, as if inviting me to uncover its secrets. I pushed it open and shone my flashlight into the darkness. The beam revealed old trunks, covered in dust and cobwebs, and forgotten relics of the past. My eyes were drawn to a corner where a small, antique rocking chair stood. It was rocking gently, though there was no breeze. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached it. Suddenly, the chair stopped. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice trembling. Silence. I took a deep breath and reached out to touch the chair. As my fingers brushed the wood, a cold, clammy hand closed around my wrist. I gasped and jerked back, my flashlight falling to the floor and plunging the attic into darkness. Scrambling to retrieve it, I heard a soft, childlike giggle. The sound was otherworldly, echoing off the walls. My flashlight flickered back to life, revealing a small figure standing in the corner. It was a child, no older than 10, with hollow eyes and an expression of sorrow. "Who are you?" I managed to choke out. The child tilted its head, eyes boring into mine. "I lived here long ago. They never found me." A chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean? Who never found you?" The child whispered, pointing to the attic door. I turned to look, and my heart nearly stopped. Shadows, darker than the surrounding darkness, were creeping through the doorway, moving with an unnatural fluidity. They had no distinct form, but their presence was suffocating. "You have to leave," the child said, its voice gaining strength. "Before they come for you, too." I backed away, my mind racing. The shadows were closing in, their whispers growing louder. Panic surged through me as I turned and fled down the stairs, the child's voice echoing in my ears. "Go. Run and never look back." I burst out of the cabin, the cold night air biting at my skin. The whispers followed me, growing fainter as I ran deeper into the woods. I didn't stop until I reached my car, gasping for breath and fumbling with the keys. As I sped away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The cabin stood silent and dark, but in the attic window, I saw the child watching me, its eyes filled with a sadness that haunted me. I never spoke of that night to anyone. The cabin, with its secrets and shadows, remained untouched. But sometimes, in the dead of night, I hear the soft tapping and the child's sorrowful voice, a reminder of the horrors that lurk in forgotten places. Years passed, but the memory of the cabin never faded. My dreams were plagued by the child's hollow eyes and the creeping shadows. I tried to move on, burying myself in work and routine, but the unease clung to me like a second skin. One night, unable to sleep, I found myself staring at the old map of the forest. The cabin was marked with a small, ominous X. I knew I had to return, not out of curiosity, but to find closure. The fear that had once gripped me had turned into a burning need to understand. Armed with a new flashlight and a resolve I hadn't felt before, I drove back to the forest. The path to the cabin was overgrown, nature reclaiming what had been left behind. As I approached, the same oppressive silence greeted me. The cabin looked untouched, as if time had stood still. This time, I didn't hesitate. I marched up the steps and pushed open the door. The interior was just as I had left it, but there was a tangible tension in the air. I made my way to the attic, each step feeling like a confrontation with the past. At the top of the stairs, the attic door stood closed. I steeled myself and pushed it open. The flashlight's beam cut through the darkness, illuminating the same old trunks and forgotten relics. The rocking chair was still, but the child was nowhere to be seen. "Hello," I called out, my voice steady despite the fear gnawing at me. Silence. I stepped further into the attic, my flashlight revealing more of the space. On a dusty table, I noticed an old leather-bound journal. I picked it up, the pages yellowed and fragile. Flipping through, I found entries dated over a century ago. They spoke of a family plagued by strange occurrences, a child who vanished without a trace, and whispers of a dark presence. As I read, a chill ran down my spine. The child's words echoed in my mind. They never found me. I realized the journal was written by the child's mother, detailing their descent into madness as the shadows took her child. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and my breath formed visible puffs in the air. The shadows began to creep into the room, moving with that same unnatural fluidity. The child's figure materialized in a corner, eyes filled with that haunting sorrow. "You shouldn't have come back," the child whispered. Before I could react, the shadows surged forward, enveloping me in darkness. Cold, clammy hands grasped at me, pulling me down. I struggled, but their grip was unrelenting. The child's voice was the last thing I heard before everything went black. "They've come for you, too." When I awoke, I was lying on the forest floor, the morning sun filtering through the trees. I stumbled to my feet, disoriented and covered in dirt. The cabin was nowhere to be seen, as if it had vanished into thin air. I never spoke of that night to anyone. The memories of the cabin and its horrors became a burden I carried alone. I moved far away, but the child's sorrowful eyes and the creeping shadows haunted my dreams. Even now, years later, I can still hear the whispers and the soft, rhythmic tapping. The forest holds its secrets, and some things are better left forgotten. But I know deep down that the shadows are always watching, waiting for their next victim.